Hello, I'm Philip Brunelle, Artistic Director and founder of Vocal Essence and organist choirmaster at Plymouth Congregational Church in Minneapolis. So here we are in the last week of 2020, and my son Tim, my videographer, and I thought that rather than have another week of composers, let's have a week of some topics that I think would be of interest to you, the listener. Talking about choirs, talking about composers, talking about the kind of music that's chosen to fit a particular occasion. So today, the topic is indeed working with choirs, inspiring choirs. What are the things that have to happen if you are in a choir? Now, for those of you who don't sing in a choir, some of this may seem very unusual, but a lot of it will seem very sensible. So, of course, rehearsal for a choir, because they haven't been singing all day long, they come to rehearsal, one needs to do some kind of a warm-up with them. I would make the analogy that it's just like a sport. Somebody goes out on the field, they're ready to start a warm-up, they've got to stretch, they've got to get their body ready. Well, the same thing happens with singers. They have to get their voice ready. So you start with some warm-ups that are going to not be hugely rigorous, but beginning very easily. And it's probably going to begin, and you all could try this at home, would be just humming. You know, if you took and just hummed just a short group of notes, and you kind of worked that through, you eventually can expand the range to more notes. You also then might find that instead of humming, you might take a vowel, like say ah, and use it the same way. And then instead of doing, you might do, you might find just ways of gradually extending what you're doing. Then as it gets bigger, you might find yourself doing things like ha and going ha, 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 ha. Just various ways that make your diaphragm work with the rest of your body. So all of those kinds of things become part of what starts a rehearsal with singers. Also, when you have a group of singers, you'll probably have a mixed group of soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Now, the word soprano, of course, comes from the word sopra, S-O-P-R-A, which meant above, because it's the highest voice. So then you have altos, and the word alto means altus, and the word came from the idea that the alto was higher than the tenor. So that's where altus came. The bass, of course, is the lowest, bassus, but the tenor, interestingly enough, going back in medieval times when these words started to be used, the tenor word tenere means to hold, because in a lot of Renaissance music, you would find that the tenor part often was the melody, not the soprano, and it was also the part that held the chord together. So this is where you get your soprano, alto, tenor, and bass notes. You'll also find that depending on the repertoire, how you want to work on a piece of music. And I have found, certainly on a piece that might be fast, it's very good to take it at a slower tempo. And perhaps at first, I might play the piece. I'm making this up, but if you were doing a piece even like the Hallelujah chorus from Messiah, and let's say the choir had never heard of it before, and they suddenly got into, so they only had one word to worry about at the beginning, hallelujah. But what's most important before you even think about notes is the rhythm. So can they get the rhythm? So why don't they just speak it? You could play it, and they're going, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And then you could add the notes, maybe at a slower tempo than it would eventually be sung, but all of those kinds of things make it so that people who are singing feel confident. Oh yes, I've got it. Now obviously, Hallelujah Chorus, most people know, but not everybody. I have come to realize that in today's world, a piece that I am thinking, "Oh, everybody knows this." Let's say like The Heavens Are Telling from Haydn's Creation. I assumed one time when we were doing it, everybody knows this. And when we brought it out, I said, all of you sung this before? And maybe out of 50 people, there were 10 people that went, no, never heard it. So you always have to think, not only for the singers, but for the listener, that not every piece of music is something people have heard before. So how do you make that connection going forward? Now, in today's world, with this pandemic, we also have had to think in new ways about how do we perform music, how do we learn music. We can't be standing together. And you know, standing together, close together, is one of the really great things about singing, because you can hear the person next to you and you share that breathing with them. It's one of the great facts about choral singing. So because we can't do that, we have to become creative, and we have to think, okay, how are we going to make this work that acoustically we can work together? So there have been many different methods of learning how to sing together that have come to be, and we're working to see what those are. How can we hear another part while we're singing alone? And doing all of that has resulted in some fascinating things. You've all seen these pictures of 80 people in a choir on a screen. Well, they all had to learn it individually before it could be brought together. It's a very time-consuming process. And eventually, all of those 80 people are looking forward to the time that they can sing together again, because that whole idea of being in a group makes for not just an interesting sound, but of course a thrill for the audience and a thrill for the singer, that you are all working together. So I predict that in the future, we'll probably have some of both. We will eventually, with the vaccines developed, eventually people will be able to come back together. And that's, of course, for me, looking into 2021, one of the great challenges and creative challenges. That is, how do we keep singing vibrant and alive? Because to me, singing is the most wonderful way of music making that there is. I hope you agree, and I look forward to sharing with you in 2021. Have a wonderful day.